Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Tuesdays. Um, I have a few more people joining, but I want to make sure we get started on time. We've got Sam Rogers with Axis Communications. He's going to go over everything Axis can do, and they're not just a CCTV company. So, Sam, if you want to take it away.
Okay, no problem. Well, thanks everybody for taking time out of your lunch schedule to kind of sit here and meet with me. So, my name is Sam Rogers. I'm one of the regional sales managers for Southern California. But there's four of us in Southern California, but there's about 20 regional sales managers on the West Coast and about 200 throughout the United States and like a few hundred more globally. So just kind of keep that in mind. So with all that being said, let's just start off. So let me see. Cool. So let me open these up. Okay. So a couple things. We are the #1 commercial security camera provider globally. So just keep that in mind. Any commercial project, we're usually hard spec'd in or we're a preferred vendor for. We started off in 1984 as a print and server company. We are just more than a camera company. We make a lot of different things with Ethernet jacks or programmable systems like IoT devices. We do about $1.6 billion globally, US, and that number continues to rise as well. We are part of the Canon ecosystem. So Canon bought us in 2016, but there's some other manufacturers that they also bought. So BriefCam, an artificial intelligence company, and they also own Milestone, which is a large video management system. And if you don't know, a VMS system is, or video management system is where you send all the video footage to so you could play and record and do a couple things like that. Okay. So one of the bigger things I like to note here on this slide is we are part of the UN Global Green Compact. So what's that mean? Well, I could show you like a 50-point PowerPoint presentation or spend half the day, but it basically just means we meet green standards by the UN, and we don't, all of our manufacturing is made without like any like human rights violations. People aren't using toxic paints, those type of things. And so we had a supply chain shortage a few years ago. One of the reasons why it took us longer than other manufacturers to come out of it is because we have to meet all the criteria in the UN Global Green Compact. So most of our cameras use recycled plastic. If there's plastic, we try to use as much recycled materials in our cameras. And also we have to adhere to strict energy usage standards in the camera. The most expensive part of a security system is actually the energy it consumes. So just kind of keep that in mind. So over on the right, we have a little bit of an ecosystem that we like to kind of present here. So we're kind of in the middle, but there's a few other things that we sorry, my computer's acting kind of weird. Okay. So yeah. Give me a second. Okay, much better. So we kind of meet with a bunch of different people here. So we are heavily invested with the architects and engineers. We have distribution, but we can break down our business model into 2 tiers. So for me on the RSM side, I deal a lot with end customers, because end customers at the end of the day for security products, they dictate what everybody else does down the line for the most part. But technically, Axis as a company, we only sell through distribution. We never sell direct to the end customer. We may convince the end customer to use Axis, but we never ever sell direct. We have a lot of large Fortune 50 companies that demand us to sell direct to them, and we tell them, no, you have to go through distribution. So distribution would be the ADIs of the world, Wesco, Anixter, ScanSource, Ingram Micro. Those type of people, they will be the distributors. Those are the people that you guys would buy from. So, and on the other part of it is system integrators. So that could be anyone part of our channel program, or are just somebody who's just a reseller, just kind of throws boxes out there, but they meet all of our reselling specs. Then those people sell to the end customers for the final result. So a couple things. We are a Swedish company. So we're in Lund, Sweden. So that's in the southern portion of the of Sweden. Then we also have about 62 offices globally. Actually, it's around 70 offices now, from what I've been told this morning. We have these experience centers where we have all the technology kind of set up. We'll get into more of that later, but just kind of view them as like, just kind of like a Disney Imagineering, but for security cameras and security equipment. So a couple things to note. I'm not going to go through every single thing, but we are the originator of the IP cameras. So let me open these up. So in 1996, we invented the IP camera. So we literally wrote the book on IP cameras. Okay, then we kind of like decided, well, we need more there. So once we invented the IP camera, we actually started making our own chipset. And one thing to note for those of you who work in the government space, we meet all the NDAA compliance and any type of government compliance that you can meet. So we kind of manufacture everything in that compliance. But with all that being said, we started our own chipset called ARPEC. It's important for a security camera to have its own chipset. So a couple things. So that way you're not dependent on some other manufacturer for your chipset, but it increases the level of security we can guarantee for our cameras. So that means our cameras are less likely to be hacked. Then we have a partner program, which this is for our sellers, our resellers, and our integration partners. So when you guys decide like, hey, I'm going to bid a project, you would register a project with distribution, then I would give out discounts. And so depending on the size of the project, then that's kind of what we would do. Then I already talked about the UN Global Green Compact, but you could kind of see how we develop things through time. Like we started to get into access control. So everything that we make, I just want to know, it has an Ethernet jack or can be configured through the network. Then we have something called Zipstream. Zipstream's super important, and I really like to mention this just because Zipstream compresses all the non-moving parts of a scene and decompresses the moving parts. So that way you could have up to 70% bandwidth reduction. Now, think about like maybe like 10 years ago when you're in the house and like two people and could be online at the same time because they would just get really laggy. That's your bandwidth. And so if you have thousands of cameras, this could be a huge problem. And so this comes with the Axis camera. You just have to turn it on. And so that way we could reduce the bandwidth. So that way the video is less laggy and they could save on storage. Okay. So with all that being said, security is an ongoing thing. Things have changed through the use of time of increased use of cameras. We are seeing people use security cameras, just not for security. They're using them for facilities management. They want it there, meaning we can count how many people are going through a scene. We can give that data, how many cars are driving to John Wayne Airport every day. So just think about different use, like people, BMW uses our cameras for quality controls. So just because you think of us as a security camera company per se, doesn't mean that's all we do. We do a lot of other things. So if you have any questions like, hey, I have a customer who wants to do XYZ thing, it may sound crazy, but maybe somebody in our organization or myself have done it and we could help you out with it. So everything's connected. Connection is very important for us. It's part of one of our core mottos. We have an open API. So that means if we're saying like, oh, we want to put our cameras in this factory, what happens this particular end customer factory has a special programming language they want to? Well, we meet most programming languages that you could actually adapt into our camera. And we have resources for that. So just kind of let me know and we can make it happen. So a couple things, artificial intelligence and analytics. They're different, but one of the same in our products. So we do artificial intelligence, but not like the Terminator Skynet type of way. For us, we do all of our training of artificial intelligence at 20 locations across the globe. And we update it via firmware. We don't like the idea of a camera just being outside learning on its own, because the problem with that is you could have one camera just looking at a lobby and one looking at a storage closet. The storage closet camera will not be as smart as the lobby camera because it's not seeing as much, and it may be inaccurate. So when we do it the way we do it by firmware upgrades, we could ensure ensure a level of accuracy than other people can't. But here's the thing to remember: these cameras will not take over the world. It's not like learning on its own. We still have to guide it. So when we say artificial intelligence with our stuff, we know what a person is and we know what a vehicle is. And we can count the vehicles and we can count the people and a few odds and ends things. So keep that in mind. So then we jump to analytics. We have a bunch of different analytics. So we have one called Axis Object Analytics. And it comes with the camera. It uses our artificial intelligence with the analytic, combines them. So that way you could have best of both worlds, sets up within 1 minute for one scenario. And so you could do car counting, people counting. You could do loitering alarms, object and area, conditional line crossing. But you could do a lot of this without false alarms because it only triggers on people and vehicles. And vehicles can be broken down into a bunch of subsections. Like if you say, like, we could do semi-trucks, cars, pickup trucks, bicycles. Bicycle/motorcycle comes in as the same thing. So if you know that semi-trucks aren't allowed on the street, you could program the camera to alarm just on semi-trucks. Okay. Next thing that I want to kind of briefly touch on is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is one of the underrated things that a lot of end customers think about, especially security integrators, because it's one of those things that nobody really cares about until something happens. But just know that we take it very seriously at Axis. We have a bunch of different cybersecurity options. So we have trusted platform modules. We have signed firmware, secure boot. We could put certifications on all of our cameras. And we are FIPS compliant. So all those things combined just makes the camera a very secure device, and nobody else does it the way we do it. And we take it very seriously, where we have a bounty program. So if you're able to hack into our camera, we'll pay you for the information, or we'll pay a bounty on it. And so that way we could fix it and fix the problem via updates. Then we already talked sustainability and ethics. That goes back to our UN Global Green Compact. So products and solutions. So we make over 208 individual products. Not like, we're not selling pens, we're not selling cables and part of that 208, but individual products that meet very specific verticals that we go for. So whether it be cameras, intercoms, access control, audio, strobes, we have something. We even make radars. So just keep that in mind. Then we have services. So like calling me is almost a service. So we do training. So if you are new to cameras, we have this thing called Network Video Fundamentals. I've always been a big advocate of this. When I've been with Axis for about 6 years, and but when I came on board, I thought I knew everything about cameras. This is a great course, not just for Axis cameras and learning about it. It's very skewed to us, of course, but it's a good crash course in security in general. So if you want a crash course, you want to learn more about it, it'll teach you the nomenclature of a camera, like what an aperture is, what does FPS mean, you know, those type of things. Professional, then we have technical. Our tech support is free. You can go 1-800-AXIS and you can talk to somebody from 9 to 5 every day. You don't have to be certified. Professional service is a paid for thing. So if you had a large end customer who says, I want XYZ custom analytic, they'll make it for you. We have a bunch of free tools online, such as Site Designer, and Site Designer is an accessory. So Site Designer, so you upload some blueprints, then you could pick and pull different cameras, and it helps you pick the cameras. Then we have an accessory selector. We have about a dozen different free tools you get on our website. Then we have our local teams, which include myself, some sales engineers. So if you say, hey, Sam, you got to help me build out this plan for XYZ thing, more than happy to help. Or you got to walk on site, I'll do all of it. So just know that there's a lot of resources out there for you. Okay, we talked about this, but I also want to talk about quality. So in this particular slide, so our warranty is 5 years, and it's a very good warranty. It kind of reminds me of kind of like Apple Care when you get it. When you buy a new phone, as long as you don't drop it in the water, you're basically covered. Where a lot of other manufacturers, they'll say like, oh, you have a 10-year warranty. And they go, but that's really only on the dome. It's not on the motherboard. It's not on this. So when you talk to other manufacturers, really ask them what the warranty covers. Because for us, it's basically, it's everything. Unless the camera was installed improperly, then we won't cover. But if everything was installed right, we'll stand behind our products. Then our products generally have a 10-year lifespan before we stop supporting them. Now, we'll still pick up tech support, but we're not writing any new firmware updates on that. So once we are the largest security camera provider for commercial spaces, we're in all these verticals, and we have specific cameras and devices that we design for each one of these verticals, whether it be data centers, the cities, the traffic, the critical infrastructure. So if you have any questions about these, please let me know. And we also have a national person that covers each one of these sections who's an industry expert in hospitals, retail, all these things. And we go to all the major trade shows in these type of verticals as well. So, like Jack said, we are not just a camera company. We make a lot of other things. So we talked about analytics, access control. So we make a bunch of different badging solutions. So if you have a system that's, let's say, needs an update, we make the card readers. We make the stuff that goes into it. We have integrations into the Genetec Synergis, intercoms. I think intercoms are very underrated. So intercoms are pretty nice just for regular intercom purposes, but you always get good face shots with intercoms where you can't mount regular security cameras like, this high. You have to mount them high, but you could put an intercom right here and it would just be fine. You'd get a nice face shot. IP audio. That's going to be one of our biggest growing product line, because you can do paging, you could play music, you could tie it into a security camera analytics. So if somebody triggers an analytic, doesn't matter which one, you could have it play an announcement that says you are trespassing. You could have our audio, so it has something called SIP, Session Initiate Protocol. So that means that's compatible with most IP phones or SIP phones. So that way you could have two-way communication with a regular SIP phone. And if you have operators, they could call down, use it as a regular paging system. And it has microphones built into it, so you could actually have two-way communication. A few years ago, we got into the body-worn cameras for wearables. Just know that they meet all the mil-spec requirements and police requirements and evidence requirements as well. They have a 14-hour battery life, and they're growing in popularity. We do make our own video management software, so a VMS. So our VMS is pretty good. If you buy our boxes that the VMS lands on, it's lifetime licenses with no reoccurring fees. If you build your own box, then it is a yearly fee or a 5-year fee. But our VMS is designed for those sub 200 camera systems. So nothing large enterprise, but it could do like a hospital, maybe like a single site hospital. So then we have other system devices and the one that we have in the picture here for system devices, that one's a radar, but we also, and the radars are nice because sometimes you don't want a camera for detection. You just need to know if somebody's there. And it'll have like kind of a picture on it with anyone you upload and little dots that kind of walk around so you can see if it's a person or a vehicle. You could also do speed detection with that radar and send that data to wherever you want. So I gotta talk about network cameras. It's what I like. It's what I love. So yeah. So the P32 series camera, which is shown on the top left corner there, that's going to be the bread and butter of any camera system that we have. Okay, so that is going to be your basic dome camera. It does have the capability of running all of our analytics on it, and so do any of these that you see here. Then the one to the right of that will be your box camera, very old school. They're primarily designed to replace other cameras that look like it. Bullet cameras. I really like bullet cameras. The third one to the right. Those ones are pretty nice because they're good for license plates and traffic, because the dome cameras will always bend the light, but the flat base doesn't reflects the light better. Pan tilt zoom cameras. So we have pan tilt zoom cameras that can have a nighttime shot up to about 800 feet now. Then we have modular cameras. So that means you could have one box, then you'll have 5 cameras kind of come out of it. But one IP address, one license. Then we have multi-sensor cameras to the right of that. So that it's similar concept, but all 4 lenses are on a track, and you can get that up to 4K. You can even get a PTZ that goes in the middle of some of these. So that way you have situational awareness and you could track with the PTZ. Thermal cameras are primarily for detection, so not identification. So you'll see it'll look like that movie Predator, how the thing sees. And so you can see people jumping fences and doing a bunch of wild stuff. They use a PTZ to identify them. But we also see people use thermal cameras for infrastructure. So if the chillers on the top of the roof are getting too hot, if comm rooms are too hot, you could do temperature detection. Some people use them in a lot of gardening areas. Will use them for mulch and fire detection and things of that nature. We have explosion proof cameras, which we design and build in-house, and we come in cheaper than everybody else for those actually, and they meet all the explosion proof ratings. So just because it says explosion proof doesn't mean, so it won't cause an explosion, but it won't withstand an explosion. So if you ever mess around with a power drill and you could do that thing and you see the spark, that would cause an explosion at a Chevron site. Then we have transportation cameras. So just know that this is a very niche thing, but they do meet all the transportation specs and regulations. Specialty cameras on here, it's a corner camera for like elevators, but we got a bunch of different options. Positioning cameras, really just for aerospace for the most part. That just means they could look all the way up in the sky to track like rockets and things of that nature. Then we have to have a Canon camera here just because we're owned by them. So I talked about our VMS platform before, but just know that Companion's free. It's good for the smaller sites. So like anything sub 20 cameras, you could just download the app and put an SD card in the camera, go for it. If you need something more robust, go to Camera Station. Then in Camera Station, we could do a few things with it. We can do access control, something called Smart Search 2.0, which just means if I put in the data saying black shirt and I'm wearing blue jeans, so black top, blue bottom, it would search for everyone black top, blue bottom. And it does a bunch of different things, but it's really good for those non-enterprise solutions. Like I said, sub 200 cameras. So you don't have video redundancy with it. It's a big thing that separates it from enterprise. Video redundancy is if I have 2 servers, and if one fails, the other one backs up and you don't even know about it. So video recorders, again, you're going to use these for Access Camera Station, but we have a bunch of different ones you can. And I really want to stress, if you buy our recorders, it's a lifetime license for it. And they come in all different models, but just know that the S30 series, it works really well with Companion because Companion just looks for storage. And you could also add the S30 series to Access Camera Station because it's just solid state drives that plugs in. But I also want to note on this site is the workstations. So you could have the best VMS in the world, but if you don't have a powerful computer at the head end that your operators or whoever's looking at stuff, if they don't have a powerful PC in the front, you'll never be able to process the video because you need a higher end graphics card. We sell some. Just note they don't come with keyboards or monitors, but they have a bunch of different HDMI outputs. You could do 4K with them, and you're going to need something like this or similar to it. So the security guards up front can actually use the system. So I talked about most of the services, but I also wanted to fill you guys in on more academy trainings. So I mentioned network video fundamentals, but we have one on camera station. We have an audio one. We have one on access camera station, access camera station. And we have so many of these classes. So if you ever wanted a custom for you or an end customer, we could also assist you with that. And technical services, I kind of brushed over this, and I know I said it was free, which it is. But what's neat about it is you can make your own cases. We have help desk portals. We have a sales engineering team to help you guys out with. We also have a dedicated inside salesperson. So if you had problems with the project in Idaho, we could help you out with it, and one in Guam at the same time. So yeah. So a couple things I wanted to talk, and we talked about some innovation things. We talked about the quality. We also talked about sustainability, but I really want to get back to cybersecurity because this is going to be an ongoing issue as everything becomes more and more connected and everything kind of shifts to the cloud. Because everybody wants to go to the cloud, but the cloud is a very risky proposition for a lot of people's networks. A lot of big Fortune 500 companies don't allow their cameras to go out, but we are seeing a trend with people um, wanting to use cloud services. So with cyber, we have this thing called the cyber hardening guide that has all the outlined information. So that way you can give this to any IT director in the world and say, this is what Access does. And he'll most likely rubber stamp it. But let's say that's not good enough. We will have one of our cybersecurity experts on the phone with them as soon as possible. So that way everybody feels good. So I threw a lot of things at you guys today, and honestly, I could talk for hours about it. But the best way to kind of see it, no matter where you are in the country, most likely we have one of our experience centers that you guys can visit. And I took a few pictures this morning of the office, and we have a much larger facility than just these 3 pictures. But this is literally just like a playground where we have all the analytics set up. We could open gate arms. We show the cameras. We have all the loitering detections. We have the different verticals set up. So on the picture all the way to the right, you can see like a slot machine in a craps table over there, or a poker table. But we have a ton of stuff like this. And these are free offices for you guys all to use. You just hit me up and say, hey, Sam, I want to host a 50-person meeting here. And if you say, go buzz off, you don't even have to be here, I just need your room, then that's fine. We just require you to sign in, and then you guys could use this office like your office. Because we build these offices for all of our customers to use at their leisure and to explain our technologies to the final customers. So with all that being said, do we have any questions for me?
So if there aren't any questions, I do have a link that I'm going to put in the chat right now. If anyone does want to schedule a visit, I know we're kind of all spread across the country. They do have an office or a experience center in DC, San Jose, and Irvine. Also, there's, I believe, a couple in Houston, right?
There's one in Houston.
Or, sorry, Texas.
There's 2 in Texas, Houston and Dallas.
So if there is any interest, more than welcome to fill out this Google form. It's also on ClarkNet and the calendar invites. If there are no questions, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Okay, no problem. You guys let me know if you need anything, and we'll talk to you later.
Great. Thank you.
Problem.
Thanks, y'all.